What is the Zoot-Suit of today? To answer these questions, we must take a look back and understand the original Zoot-Suiters of the 1940s. We must understand the stereotypes that are linked to the Zoot-Suit and how these stereotypes play out in both the legal system and on the streets during the Zoot-Suit riots.
Let us begin a journey into the past so that we can see how the symbols that show who Mexican Americans are and represent have shifted, changed, and how it has led us to the symbolic Zoot-Suit of today. We begin in August of 1942 when a fight broke out at a party on a ranch where several Mexican American youth attended.
The next day, the body of severely wounded Juan Diaz was found at the Sleepy Lagoon watering hole, not too far from the ranch party. This led officials to roundups, arrests, and convictions of several Mexican American youth that were dressed in zoot suits. Though the youth were being held for the disruption on the ranch, the fact that the youth were wearing zoot suits did not help the situation. The reason for this was, in the midst of World War II, fabric was being rationed in order to help war efforts. The zoot suit was seen as unpatriotic because it used too much fabric. What became known as the Sleepy Lagoon murder trial resulted in a negative image of young Mexican American boys in zoot suits. Forced to remain in the same clothes during the entirety of the trial, the young Mexican American boys wearing zoot suits displayed an image of criminality to the public. The unjust treatment during the trial led racial tensions to reach its climax. While Mexican Americans saw the zoot suit as a symbol of acceptance into a group in a time of general unacceptance of their people, Americans saw the zoot suits as an anti-American threat. When the racial tension explodes, servicemen and Anglo civilians banded together to put a stop to what they believed was the cause of the disruption: Mexican Americans and their zoot suits. Not all sailors joined in on the attacks on young zoot suiters. The ones who were made their target the zoot suit. The attacks that took place on Los Angeles streets in June 1943 became known as the Zoot Suit riots. Though it was sailors that initiated the attacks, the youth wearing zoot suits were arrested. Since the zoot suit was believed to be the opposite representation of being an American, then so too were the Mexican Americans who wore them. In essence, Mexican Americans in zoot suits were not American and were marginalized. To the zoot suiters, the zoot suits were not just yards of fabric, but a symbol that instilled pride and acceptance into an American group at the time. As Mexican Americans have taken to the streets to demand equality, they have strategically used symbols for empowerment. For example, organizer Cesar Chavez and the United Farm Workers would replace the symbol of the zoot suit to a symbol of the Aztec eagle flag. The Aztec eagle flag is seen in many of UFW marches as a representation of hope and strength. Cesar Chavez states, "A symbol is an important thing. That is why we chose the Aztec eagle. It gives pride. When people see it, they know it means dignity." The Aztec eagle flag was not just a symbol of hope and strength for the UFW, but became a symbol for Mexican Americans who struggle for equality in the United States. During this time period, Mexican American youth were fighting for equality in the education system. One group that is well known for their fight for educational equality is the Brown Berets. Taking a militaristic stance in achieving equality in education and ending brutality and oppression, the Brown Berets used brown military uniforms as a symbol of unity in the community as well as in powerful protests to bring awareness of the injustice being done to the Mexican American community. By using a militaristic dress, the Brown Berets became symbols of the radical sector of the Chicano movement, in the same way the Black Panthers were radical during the Civil Rights Movement. For the youth during this period, the beret uniform was their zoot suit representing their cause.
You can see the significance of these historic symbols today. One such instance is through artists such as Vincent Valdez, who recreated the Zoot-Suit riots in his artwork titled Kill the Pachuco Bastard. In Valdez's work, we can get a glimpse of what took place during the riots, as well as pride for the Mexican Americans who used the Zoot-Suit to take a stand against prejudice from sailors, police, and civilians. A sense of pride is instilled within the artwork. Mexican Americans are not the only ones to use symbolisms to fight against inequality in the United States. Unfortunately, there are many examples of discrimination against various minority communities in the United States. Hundreds of thousands of people marched the streets wearing hoodies as a symbol to search for justice for Trayvon Martin, an African American male that was shot to death by the neighborhood watch captain George Zimmerman. In a similar way that Trayvon Martin was criminalized by his skin color, people assumed to be from the Middle East are targeted by skin color and clothes, oftentimes at airports. For those specific communities, this is their Zoot-Suit. The question that still persists from Mexican Americans is, what is the Zoot-Suit of today? The Zoot-Suit of today for many Mexican Americans is the cap and gown. Yes, the garments used during high school and college graduations. Now, to be clear, Mexican immigrants are not the only ones to use this symbol. Undocumented students across the United States have used this symbol to represent their campaign for the DREAM Act. Taking cues from the past, the Dreamers use the graduation cap and gown as a symbol for their goals in the same way the Zoot-Suiters use their dress to show pride and acceptance. Faced with the same kind of discrimination as the Zoot-Suiters, being seen as not belonging to American society, the Dreamers were strategic in using a cap and gown to represent their struggle. By focusing on wanting to be able to graduate high school, attend colleges, and even join the armed forces, Dreamers make it difficult to argue against youth gaining their goals. Nationally, the Dreamers are battling to pass a DREAM Act bill that would provide a pathway for citizenship for youth that meet specific qualifications, such as minimum years of age, completion of high school, and no criminal record. Currently, the Texas DREAM Act that allowed for undocumented students to pay in-state tuition is being threatened by Senate Bill 1819, which if passed would force undocumented students to pay higher out-of-state tuition. Additionally, the DREAM Act seeks to give undocumented youth an opportunity to join the Army as a means to gain citizenship. By wearing a cap and gown, which is a representation of milestones, the Dreamers are able to connect with a larger public. Americans across the United States can recognize graduation. It is difficult to say to a youth in a cap and gown, "No, you should not seek an education. You should not seek to join the army to protect the country you have grown to love." It is difficult to criminalize the undocumented youth who wear such a powerful symbol. While the Zoot-Suiters were criminalized by their dress, Dreamers have not been criminalized. Nationally, Dreamers continue to fight for a path towards citizenship. Some states have legislation that allows undocumented students to attend public universities for in-state tuition fees. Some even give financial aid to undocumented students. Texas, surprisingly a conservative state, does give students in-state tuition fees and financial aid. However, this is in jeopardy. Dreamers across the state have fought against the repeal of Senate Bill 1819, which would deny undocumented students in-state fees and financial aid and would raise tuition costs. It is my hope that the symbol of the cap and gown speaks strongly to the public, legislators, and decision makers, that the dream to obtain an education and become a productive citizen are clearly evident in the symbol of the cap and gown that is greatly accepted in American society.